This Thanksgiving, Friends Talking Nerdy presents No Chance in Hell. Contact your podcast provider for availability.
Your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too. I want to talk to you, Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim Jousma, and with me I have Her Holiness, the Reverend Tracy. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty well, Tim. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I've been home sick for the week. Last week, the day we recorded, actually had to leave work early and was sick again the next day. So because of everything with the pandemic, they told me I got to stay home for 10 days. So I'm still recovering a bit from that. I don't think I had anything more serious than a minor flu at best. But even if it's just that, with everything going around, if somebody already has a weakened immune system, I could, easily make things worse. So just kicking back, relaxing, and spending a lot of time getting zits off my nose. That's been a new fun thing to do.
Interesting. Did you get one of those little toolkits that comes with all the pokers and torture-looking devices? Okay, because I have one and I won't look back now. But that's the way to do it. You go on Wish and then you get this metal kit for $1 and then you start Googling how you clean your pores. And then it turns out there's actually a kit for this. So
No, me, I just would just go in front of the mirror, and my pores on my nose are pretty big anyway, so it's easy to see which ones, needed attention. But I have some BOA strips, but it's more fun to, get them all individually. And they're worse on the sides of the nose. I didn't realize how much gunk could, collect on the sides of your nose. But I guess as someone who wears glasses, that is bound to happen because of sweat and all that stuff. But anyway, what are you nerding out about this week?
Well, in totally better topics. Let me top that topic. No, so I've had it all over Facebook already because I've been sharing with the nerddom out there. But spinning up for Halloween, this time of year, I am typically panic casting the final weekend of a haunted house and trying to figure out who is actually going to make me recast them for Halloween night. And that's not happening this year. So I guess in an addition to said panic, I decided to give myself a bunch of projects the week leading up to Halloween. So actually, I took it upon myself to make costumes. We're doing a family thing. We're doing The Mandalorian.
Nice.
And my husband was awesome and found these great templates and able to work with cardboard, which I've looked at it and it looked like kind of a cool way of making cosplay stuff, but I've never really gotten into it. So I shaped the helmets. This is my first time doing it, so I learned a lot. I love learning a new medium. The first time I was on here, I talked about how I love costuming and kind of all the different ways that you can work with different crafts to come up with excellent looks. So far we've got cardboard domes, a little bit of repurposing from the Dollar Tree because my girl child is going to be the armorer. So I've made her a gold helmet with the little, notches and everything, the spikes on the helmet head, and then I've just found a kid's chest plate and cut part of it off for Dollar Tree. So, taking some hacks where I can, and then the rest of it's just going to be, inspired. It might look a little off-brand, some might say. Instead of a black t-shirt, it might be dark gray. If you're going to nitpick me on a homebrew costume, go fuck yourself. No. No, but seriously, right? It's part of the fun, though. I never got the buying a packaged thing. So to me, it's been really fun to have something to work on. I just transitioned to being at home again, so it's given me a lot to do. I just spray painted today, so if I'm extra giggly, it could just be that I possibly huffed the paint accidentally. Right. But really, the only other thing around that I wanted to mention, because you can only talk so much about cardboard and crochet for anybody that didn't catch, and I'll show this because Tim and I have this awesome video, but here is my stepson's tiny Yoda hat Well, it's the child, for those that are nitpickers.
Impressive, I say.
Oh, impressive. Yes, I looked up how to do ears, you must see. Uh, what's double awesome, though, is that we are doing this. We're going to do a little video and send to our friends, because everybody's just kind of looking for shit to do for Halloween, especially when you've got kids. And the way we framed it to our kiddos is, look, guys, it's kind of like we know the weather's going to be really, really bad. It's just we know way ahead of time that we're not going to be able to go trick-or-treating, right? Almost like
Yeah.
bad weather. So we're going to do this and do a fun video and send it to, like, friends and stuff like that. But, yeah, around making costume stuff, I did discover another docu-series that Netflix has put out there. Tim, are you too into the docu-series world?
Oh, it depends on the topic, really. I mean, Netflix has a couple of good shows, like they have one for toys that tell you the detailed history of, like, one of the episodes was about He-Man, one was about G.I. Joe, and just the entire history from initial conception to how they were made and all that. They have one for movies as well, but I do, but for generally my taste, which are, just loud explosion type of stuff,
Gotcha. I mean, I love them when they come out. To me, I've loved how much has come out, especially with 2020 and so many people being in and needing more entertainment. And there's so much fact out there that you can just really fill all the void with docuseries. So I've yet to be bored. I'm sure we can almost make its own segment of it. But I just discovered this one called Unnatural Selection. We totally binged through it. It's a 4-episode run Netflix docuseries. And it's basically about, kind of the discovery of, kind of human DNA and our ability to edit it, CRISPR technology and things like that, and some of, places that have laws against, messing with genetics to a point. Others that are looser. Biohacking, which, oh my God, if I like randomly get into anything to be concerned about, it's going to be me talking about how I'm starting to biohack my body, because I'm one of those people, and Tim can tell you this because he knows me well enough. I like to seek out how to be a better version of myself. And usually a lot of that's like mentally and kind of like, emotionally and shit like that. Like I meditate and shit. Big shocker there. So usually it's like that realm, but biohacking is like that, but like to a whole other level. And it follows this doctor. And I want to say I even remember seeing, I think it was on one of the late night shows where they were talking about that he just injected himself with this like, gene altering thing. And it was interesting because this docuseries shows this doctor talking about it, and he's just kind of the type of human that's like, science shouldn't be exclusive to these people that can afford like degrees and going to college for a long time. Like a lot of our bigger innovations came from people in their garages, not from people out of academia. Right. And, kind of encouraging a level of biohacking and kind of, that self-experimenting like to a safe level as you can reasonably be. And so this documentary does kind of follow a few of those. One of those is a gentleman who, doesn't have a degree, but actually really seems to kind of know his shit. Like self-learned because he realized, hey, the computer is like a teacher, and used it that way instead of following like the Kardashians. So, it's got an interesting collection of characters. I will say that one doctor that injected himself, and it's super appropriate that he dressed up as Rick Sanchez. Like one of the videos that they had like must have been during some Halloween costume thing, and he is in a Rick Sanchez costume because that was our one thing about him. We liked him, but we thought he embodied that a little too much. Like, was drinking and very lax, and there's also some other characters that came in that you're like, okay, there is a shady sales bra that like comes in. But anywho, each episode is kind of long. But it's 4 episodes. It's interesting. You learn something about biohacking and even just kind of how some of that, the history and how we discovered certain things with genetics and stuff like that. Super interesting. And I guess like we did see somewhere they caught a bunch of shit for being like really white.
Okay.
I guess there's not a lot of diversity in the crowd of biohacking, and I'm doing bioengineering from home. But that's the only controversial thing I could really find about it. So other than that, I feel really good about just recommending it. I don't know if they intentionally left anybody out of this film, But yes, it is a lot of white scientist dudes. But either way,
Sounds.
really interesting.
I mean, it sounds like especially the guy who injected himself sounds like every single Spider-Man villain ever
Right?
made.
Like, isn't that kind of the premise of a few comics? Hashtag just saying.
Yeah.
And what's funny though is I remember seeing some of the clips and talking very aggressively about, well, this guy's kind of being irresponsible and an idiot. And then when you actually watch like his cut of it, like he had a video of it. It was at a conference. And
Mhm.
it really wasn't as crazy as they made it seem. And he's like, first of all, it would have, and he even explained it to the audience, okay, while he injected himself with this stuff, genetic altering material he injected himself with. He explained immediately that you'd have to do it like a bunch of times over to do anything. He was just trying to make a point of this wasn't something like Spider-Man level to be scared of. Like you can kind of like tinker with some of these ideas and it not be exactly how they made it look like he was trying to be, which was not what he was trying to do at all.
I won't be Dr. Octopus, people.
Exactly, because they were making it sound like he was trying to get himself beefed up. Like they had done the same thing and like beefed up some cows and some dogs or something, and they made it sound like he was trying to do that. And not once did I ever get the feeling from him that that's anything he was trying to do. Like he was doing it on frogs. Him injecting his arm one time was like on a whim and just trying to show people not to be scared of it. Like,
I wonder what happened if I did this. Hey, I'm a lizard now. Let's time to rob a bank.
well, nothing happened. Shocker. Spoiler alert there. He's fine. I mean, other than I guess he's having some charges against him. But, I won't spoiler alert the end captions of the docuseries.
He escaped from prison, and now, hey.
Well, there is this one part they're interviewing. He's like, yeah, like the FBI pulled me in this room and they're asking me these questions. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of, especially in today's world, want to keep track on little things like that. But,
They don't want you discovering Spider-Man. They want to discover it, don't you know? But
Yeah.
there's also other parts that are covered as well, like some scientists that are wanting to use, like, like the concept of releasing the sterile males of mosquitoes.
Mhm.
That's a gene, that's a genetics thing. That would be bioengineering a sterile version of something to go out there and then replicate that into, and I forget, there's a term for it that they talk about. It's basically doing it in bulk like that. You change an ecosystem. They were talking about doing it with rats in some areas, for example, where they never should have been introduced. So
Right.
it covers kind of the breadth of topics, like from self-biohacking to should we be using this to exterminate species under certain situations? Is that ever okay? I really kind of dug that. I don't think they made it like a good idea or a bad idea by the end of it. I like that I love a documentary that will just cover a topic and not try to steer you either way on it. So
Yeah, not like a Michael Moore documentary or anything like that. And it's disappointing too, just in general, when you do watch a documentary that really grabs you and then you find out after the fact that it was manipulated. Like, what was that? There was a Michael Moore documentary where he opened up going to a bank in Michigan and then walking out with a gun, making it seem as if the bank was just giving guns to people that wanted to, open up an account or something like that. But what they don't tell you is that Michael Moore and his producers essentially staged that part. The bank didn't, hand out guns or anything. It was, it was from there's a documentary out there called Michael Moore Hates America or something like that, and just kind of details what he did. But it's disappointing when you see documentaries manipulate the truth in order to fit their viewpoint that they want to go. So it's nice to hear that there are documentaries that give you the unvarnished truth.
yes, and to be fair, if it weren't for Michael Moore being so known for that, we wouldn't have so many people trying very hard to make documentaries that like actually try to middle ground you and let you make up your own damn mind about something. Again, all present with knowledge. A lot of people are going to come up with their own decisions. Like, I'm super down for the idea of biohacking on my own body. Like, after watching this whole thing, I would totally experiment with that at this point. Like, if I had the time to read on it and do it right now, like, I feel that way after watching this. I so kind of want to just co-documentary with you sometime and like maybe do documentary reviews because you're looking at me like I'm crazy. But I'm telling you, put on your tinfoil hats, people, because the government doesn't want you to be Spider-Man. I'm just saying they have a vested interest.
Damn it. You're right. Fuck the government. Yeah. I want to be Spider-Man, damn it.
Inject yourself with gene-altering material now.
Hey, what's going to happen when I do this?
Okay, no, the sales bro. And by the way, like, there's a caption that sums up just exactly what you would expect his story to, like, wrap up in this situation as. So any of you that watch that, please appreciate how dark this joke is that I'm making right now. But go ahead. Enjoy the movie or the show.
Okay.
What about you, Tim? What have you been about this week?
Well, since I've had a little free time in my hands in between picking the zits off my nose, and another cool thing was Professor Aubrey and I started using Blue Apron, and they have this awesome eco-friendly cooler thing. It's like a gel inside of a bag that freezes, but after you put everything away and then unfreeze that gel, it can just safely go down the sink. But it's so cool to like cut it open and then like plop it all in the sink, and it's just like a big pile of slime. Run your hands.
That's a good change. I had Blue Apron or something like that a long time ago. But you're enjoying it, I assume, being voluntold what to eat.
Yeah. I mean, because you've had some evidence of my cooking before. You know I'm not a good cook at all. I'm functional at best, and that's on a very, very good day. And you're shaking your head like, no, you're not.
See, I'm allowed to do visuals now because we're going to be on YouTube, so I can be that person of like.
Yeah.
like,
no,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Professor Aubrey has a thing about not liking leftovers in the house. So for the most part, we do eat out, whether it's ordering out or if there's a restaurant we feel comfortable going to. But we wanted to save a little bit of money, so we tried the Blue Apron thing. So, just being able to dump all that slime in there and play with it's gross and fun. I love that. But also had a chance to read a comic book, like I mentioned last week. Friend of the show, Nick Marino, comic book writer extraordinaire, writer of such classics as Holy Fucked, and Cougar and Cub, has worked on a new comic called The Cute Crew. He's working with the artist by the name of Nils Peter Norlin. The Cute Crew. Cute is koala underwater tactical elite. Because when you think of koalas, you think of elite killing machines, and I like it because both issues of the comic that he sent me kind of have the vibe of like a 70s or 80s Saturday morning cartoon. With a constant alliteration and just this silly hijinks throughout. While there is some adult humor, it's not like the adult humor from the comic book we talked about last week. None of the koalas are porn stars or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward action and everything. But some things that I like about it, the artwork, for instance, from Nils. The art really reminded me of. Have you ever read the comic strip Bloom County?
No, I have not.
Okay, it's you'd have to see it to know what I'm talking about. I mean, one of the main characters from that comic, Opus the Penguin, is pretty famous, but the art kind of really reminded me of Berkeley Breath's work. The world in The Cute Crew seems expansive, and I really like that. It seems big budget. Too often in comics, artists don't necessarily pay attention to what's happening in the background. They're focused on, the main part of the story, and that's the characters, either interacting with each other or the environment, and don't pay as much attention to everything else. I do like the fact that it seems big, it seems expansive, and it feels like a lived-in world, which I liked. I did love the character names. The constant alliteration just gives you the vibe of a 70s or 80s Saturday morning cartoon, which I really liked, and I wrote on my notes here, there's nostalgia at work, and that's not a bad thing. I think the big critique I would have from the two issues I read is that I wish that there was a narrator similar to like the narrator from the old Batman TV show or Super Friends, the meanwhile at the Legion of Doom type of narrator. But based on how they're releasing the comic, they're releasing it in two different ways. One is a website called Webtoons, and we'll have the links on our show description. So if you are interested in checking them out, just go to the show description, tap on the link, and it'll bring you there. The other one is selling selling the issue as a full issue, because the Webtoons just takes a couple of panels and essentially treats it as if it's an episode. So I just wish that there was a narrator of some sort, but based on how they're releasing it, I don't know how well it would exactly fit, because, especially with the Webtoons scenario, I don't know if tons of exposition from an unseen narrator would be exciting for a comic book reader. And I just, at the end of the day, wish there was some more opportunity to kind of get to know the characters, because it did feel kind of like you're from the first page. It's just like, we're off to our first mission, and you don't get a chance to understand the characters, relate to them, and everything like that. But the story is quite fast paced. You'll be finished before you realize it. But it's a very, very well written, fun little action adventure piece. Like I said, it does have some adult elements, but if you got a teenager in the house, or someone about to be a teenager, I would say it's probably something appropriate for them. But did you get a chance to glimpse at it a bit?
I just got a kind of chance to look through a little bit of the artwork. I didn't get a lot of chance to read it. Like I said, I smelled a lot of spray paint today. But no, I do want to check it out, though. And then I know we want to kind of maybe do some of these comics a little bit more often. It's actually been a hot minute since I've been into comics. My brother used to draw one. I used to read a lot of Penny Arcade and stuff. So maybe it's time that I shake that old nerddom back out of the closet and like bring it back out to light again and just nerd out over some new webcomics. There's a lot out there.
There is, and I can give you my sign-in for both DC Universe and Marvel Unlimited, so you can read those comics too. Yeah, that's the Q Crew. Like I mentioned, Nick Marino is a friend of the show. He's a good writer. Definitely recommend you checking this out. And it was a really, really well done comic. Definitely appreciate it. But let's move on. The Nerdy Five. We are here this week. Tell us what it is.
This week we have gone with a topic that I picked out for us or suggested of cartoons, favorite cartoons as an adult. And it wasn't that it had to be made for adults, and it wasn't necessarily that it couldn't have aired before a certain time. It just had to be either something that we discovered or rediscovered as adults and enjoy it as an adult human in spite of whether the content was made for us. So, I don't know. Let's. Should we get started with me, or do you want to kick off with your number one? Or overall, any impact or any thoughts on researching these for you? Did you find the list easy to make?
Actually, it was a little hard. I love watching cartoons, and a lot of the cartoons that I still constantly watch were ones that, like The Simpsons, were around since I've been a kid. So, it was a little bit of a harder time finding the stuff that to add onto the list. But I did find out I watched a lot of superhero cartoons. So there is that. How about you?
I actually don't have a lot of cartoons that I watch, so it was really just Nat's assing it as to which ones I wanted to talk about / which ones were true favorites of them. If I had to pick 5 and only watch these 5 as an adult, which 5 would they be? So I had a little bit of a problem with it, but I feel good about the list that I wound up with, and it's more kid-friendly than not. And maybe that's because I've got the stepkids, but these were mostly recommends from my brother. It took a while to get me back into cartoons. Usually he had to nag me a bit, and we'll actually get into that with some of my number one all favorite was one that he finally talked me into watching. So,
well, great segue. What is your number one then?
So my number one all favorite, which might not be a surprise to anybody who's noticed the rather noticeable tattoo on my arm of Bill Cipher, but my number one all favorite cartoon as an adult has got to be Gravity Falls. It was created by Alex Hirsch. It's a Disney Channel and Disney XD cartoon. I forget, is this one that I forced you into watching?
No,
No, I didn't
no,
quite get that.
no.
Yeah, this is one that I talk a lot of adults into watching. And like I said, I kind of gave the concept of, like, I kind of cut loose from cartoons for a while. It wasn't my thing. You know, my brother would always be like, have you seen this one? Have you seen this one? I'm like, dude, I don't watch cartoons anymore. I'm a grown up. You know, I am an adult now. I had a really hard time accepting that adults, like, could still enjoy cartoons, especially cartoons that weren't made for adults, and this one was not.
Right.
So Gravity Falls, and it came out in 2012 and just ran a couple years to 2016. It was the length it was very much on purpose. It did not get canceled. They said they wanted to wrap up the story, and they did just that. So if you can appreciate a good, tight series that doesn't pontificate, doesn't go on, doesn't try to extend it, they told their story. And what's cool is they have mentioned being open to, like, more story down the road. They just wanted to finish this story. But it was more than just a cartoon. There were a lot of secret messages and clues, like even introducing it to my stepkids. You know, my stepdaughter was building, like, you know, a wheel so that she could cipher and, like, decode the secret messages at the end of every episode that would give you clues. They were very famous for hiding other little Easter eggs and hints, like, throughout. Like, and they were amazed. They've actually, there's little documentary, little bits and pieces you can find on the internet, but they were just amazed at how quick their audience were at finding these clues and stuff. And then even at the end of the show, Alex Hirsch set out and created a game called The Cipher Hunt. And at the end of the very last episode, and I did mention Louis C.K. was in those last episodes, they're called Weirdmageddon. And so that's kind of the whole point of this whole summer break, that these kids live out in this area and discover, like, all of these weird things in the area. It's actually based off of Boring, Oregon, because I guess he thought of Boring, Oregon, like, well, what if it wasn't boring? And so Gravity Falls, that little town, is a little bit based off of that concept of a seemingly boring town not being boring. And so you discover this crazy character, Bill Cipher, but at the very end of the series, they show just a flash of a picture, and you can tell it looks like a real-life statue of Bill. And apparently this kicked off the Cipher Hunt, where people could answer clues, and there was a real-life statue hidden somewhere that people did eventually find, and it's over now. They moved it to somewhere else. But so it was really kind of neat. The way my brother got me to watch this one was just saying that the brother and sister reminded him so much of us, and particularly, and something that my other friends have seen it agree, I am apparently the adult version of Mabel. So if you like Mabel Pines, like, I guess that's me. I kind of agree. There's points where she does things, and I'm like, huh, okay, yeah, I can see that a little bit. But it's a good show. It's also, you know, hey, if you've got kids at home, you can just safely watch it in front of them, and it did have a pretty big following of adults. So entertaining on its own without having to hide a bunch of, like, potty humor or sex humor. It's just, it was entertaining and interesting on levels.
And it's nice to see when shows kind of embrace the fact that we don't watch TV the way we did in the 80s and 90s anymore. You know, I think that's one reason, like, why Marvel Studios has been so successful, is that they leave little tidbits for the audience not only to speculate, but also to, you know, do little treasure hunts on their own. So it's nice to, you know, see it, because that leads to audience engagement. When you got an audience that's willing to, you know, go on a treasure hunt for something they talk about in a show, that's an audience that's going to continuously watch, buy the DVDs, buy any comics or tie-in games or anything like that. That's going to be a loyal audience.
Oh, yes. I'm not even half as loyal as the most loyal Gravity Falls fan, and I say that having a tattoo on my body. But I went out, and when they released a physical copy of Journal Number 3, oh, you're damn Skippy. I own it. I have 2 copies of it, like, because we got one for the kids, and there's one where it's got, like, McGucket's blueprints. It's really awesome. I, like, framed it and put it in the other room.
Nice.
Like, and then the only thing I was bummed out about was I didn't get, like, the cool version that would have had, like, the black light where you could have seen. Anyway, because again, there's like levels and levels in this show. And then the other thing is, like, for it being for kids, it covers some cool topics. Like, it actually talks about, like, basically having difficult conversations as friends. It has this whole thing where Dipper has a crush on this girl that's like older than him, so way not going to happen for many reasons. But they actually address it at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So kids get to see hard conversations happen, and that was something I respected watching it again as a stepmom. So
Yeah, I mean,
good stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, not many kids shows take the time to really address stuff. I mean, Mr. Rogers was famous for, I mean, like the first week of Mr. Rogers being on the air was the week that Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated, and they addressed it on a show for preschoolers, and it was successful in getting that over. Kids are definitely receptive to it. You just have to have the courage to talk to them in a way that they can relate to.
Yep, somebody's got to teach them how to have difficult conversations.
Yeah, like, I won't go into detail, but I remember the difficult conversation I had with my oldest about the birds and the bees. That was an interesting one. But anyway, I will move on to my next next choice here. My first choice, we've talked about it on the show here plenty of times, and we don't have to go into it too much here, but it's South Park. I remember the first time I saw it was 97. That's like 96, 97-ish. It had been 97, and that was around the time that Grand Rapids had a bunch of coffee shops open up, and there was one coffee shop that every Wednesday night would play South Park, and then the owner would like videotape old episodes as well, so it was like a whole marathon of South Park, and fell in love with that show from the very first, and just so much good content. One of my favorite episodes from the show, of many, Scott Tenorman Must Die. It builds up to one joke. That one joke is Cartman, after he tells Scott Tenorman that he killed his parents and put him in the chili that Scott Tenorman is eating, hops up on a picnic table and goes, nah, 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 I made you eat your parents. And just, wow, bizarre. Towley, I love Towley. Towley is, don't forget to bring a towel. I can't do that voice anymore. Any episode he's in, I'm gonna watch. The 3 episodes they did for Imagination Land, I think have to be some of the best work that they did. And Cass.
How did that song go again?
Yeah, and just the whole description.
Oh my god, yeah, that I'd see, and now that I did see up to, because of course, I've seen South Park.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who honestly have been exposed to Zero South Park, and I still think I appreciate how they can actually cover a topic and be blunt AF about it. And I always think of Scientology, where they are doing this cartoon depiction, and it says in caption, this is what Scientologists actually believe. It has it the whole time they're doing this thing about, the aliens and the volcanoes and the spirits and shit. And I always appreciated that bluntness that they're able to be, and they pull no punches. So I've loved it anytime they cover a topic, man.
Well, for the most part, I get what you're saying, and for that example, you are spot on. I do think that they, especially in later seasons, have a tendency to kind of be cynical. I think of the giant douche and the turd sandwich, just that's not a solution. That's not, it's if you're going to use your comedy, use it for good or something like that. And just too often they have the mindset of both sides are bad, so fuck them both. Yeah.
I get you. To be fair, I actually do enjoy that episode because I don't think they're wrong. And depending on how you take the message is depending on how defeatist you want to be about it. Because I think that's more of a commentary on the two-party system. Saying that will come down to a giant shit sandwich or a giant douche.
Yeah.
And so as long as we allow that to happen. But that's the way I've taken that one of if you want to understand politics, I would start lightly with that episode of South Park. And then you can go tootle over to Adam Ruins Everything, because he will ruin voting for you. Go ahead. And then I guess there's another documentary that talks about voting as well that I keep meaning to watch, but I've already voted, so.
Same here. Same
I
here.
know. We did that one already. I actually already got that back, by the way. I turned it in on Monday and already got my text message saying they got it. So, little side note out there for anybody that gives a shit about voting. It's quick turnaround if you drop it off.
Professor Aubrey dropped off our ballots, got the message right away. So even sent a tweet to the Portland mayoral candidate Sarah Innero, I believe her name is, saying I voted for you, yay! And she retweeted it, so that was cool. But
Yay!
All right, what's your next one?
So my next one, and that's Gravity Falls is the only one that's a completed series. All of these others are still running for now. So my next one is another one that's for kids. It's not a lot of people have heard of it, which is all the more reason to talk about it. It is called Hilda. Have you heard of it?
No. Tell us about it.
Okay, so this is actually a British-Canadian cartoon, and it's based on a graphic novel series of the same name. Both of these are by Luke Pearson. So the same person that did the graphic novel is doing Hilda, the Netflix original series, and it just started in 2018. And it is another one that my brother talked me into. This quickly became a family favorite, and I think the best thing any of my friends, because, depending on who it is, I'll recommend shows.
Right.
But one of my friends that I recommended this to, she said watching it was like kind of having mentally like a hot cup of cocoa. Like it's very nice, I like the little girl. She's very quotable. She's an adventurer, because they've got the accent because the, British Canadian. So she talks to her mum. And that's actually part of the reason that my stepkids started calling me Mum was that conversation came up right when we were getting into this show. But so she's got her mum, and her mum live out in the woods. And it's a very fantastical world. There's like these flying beasts called wafts, and it's nothing like anything that exists in our reality. They've got these things called rock trolls that are in the daytime, they're made out of stone, and then at night they turn into actually living trolls. So it's a very fantastical world. And this girl lives like out in the sticks of this. The first episode, a giant troll ends up smashing her house, or at the end of like those 2 episodes that kind of get you into this show, smashes her house. She ends up having to move into the city. So it's kind of a country girl having to adapt to being into a city, but in this very fantastical world where trolls and certain things exist. Mm-hmm. It's very calm. I love the artwork. It's actually been very well known for its very cool artwork, so that's in and of itself worth checking out. But I like it. It's on Netflix. Big fan of it. There's like a little game that I was addicted to for a while that was like a dinky little, like you'd put these little baits and stuff and it would like attract these critters, but it just got too alerty. But, if you're looking for a silly little farm game too, there's one that goes with it if you become a super fan.
All right. I will, as you sip your tea, I will go on to my next choice, and this one is a tie. You'll understand why when I say what they are, because at the end of the day, they're both essentially the same type of show. It is the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and the Justice League cartoon. I may have possibly had that on at some point, when back in the day when you were at my place. But have you seen either of those?
No, I probably not with any intention of watching it. I'll say that. Background or not, whether it was on the background, sure, but not with intention.
Got it. Both very good shows. What I like about them is not only do they faithfully adapt major storylines from the comic books, but both shows are more masterful, I guess, in terms of how it wasn't an episodic show. The whole series essentially told intermingling stories throughout. So something that happened in episode 3 in season 1 could come back to be important in season 2, episode 6, or something like that. I love that type of I love that type of storytelling to where you're just investing in the entire world. As far as acting on the shows, I would have to give the nod more to Justice League, because the DC cartoons they are more more well known for having more nuanced performances. And with the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the heroes tend to talk like heroes, and the villains talk with the evil voices all the time. So that would be a nitpick there. But like with the Avengers, the fact that they were able to end with an invasion of Galactus, and then they pull in Spider-Man, Wolverine, the Fantastic Four, and all those people. That was a fun way to kind of end that series. And with the Justice League being able to have access, because the Justice League is essentially a spin-off of Batman the Animated Series. So Kevin Conroy is still playing Batman, so you will still occasionally get Mark Hamill coming back as the Joker. And Tim Daly, one of the stars of the early 90s sitcom Wings, plays as Superman. And just the cast overall is just really, really good. I tend to think of them as kind of like a modern day version of the old serials. That kids would go to in the 30s and 40s, like come back next week for chapter 12 in the Amazing Adventures of blah blah blah. And it's a fun introductory series. I would say I would show this to somebody that may possibly be interested in diving into comics. This would be a way to kind of give them a little comics 101. So what's your next choice?
So my next choice is probably not news to anybody. I don't think I have to introduce this show other than just be like, hey guys, in case you were curious, or if you are watching at home and can tell what this poster is over my shoulder, you won't be surprised. I am a Rick and Morty fan. I really enjoy Rick and Morty. Actually, right over here on my shoulder for our viewing pleasure, I've got my Snuffles. Yep, because he snuffles to me, and then I also have like my Meeseeks jars. So I've got a little bit. These were actually from going to an event that was here in Portland.
In 2017.
Yeah, 2017. I got to go to one of the trucks. I still have my socks. And that was from a Comic-Con event over. I've got a big, nice, cool mural that I love that's in my bedroom. But so Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon are the creators of that. And it's just a fun fact that I want to throw in here, because this is another reason, probably the only reason this remained on my list, because it was between this and Archer, if I'm going to be totally honest. Mm-hmm. So Justin Roiland is actually friends with Alex Hirsch from Gravity Falls. And in confirming that, to make sure that I did remember that was the one he was friends with, I also found there's a video, I guess, where they do a duet where Alex Hirsch does Grunkle Stan and Justin does Rick. Okay. And they do some duet. I'm going to find the YouTube and put it up. I forget which song it was, but I'll find it again for our people. But anywho, they're friends. And if you look, there's at least twice that fans have spotted a Bill Cipher somewhere in the background of Rick and Morty. So one for sure that I have seen, and I actually saw it. I was like, hold the phone. That's Bill Cipher. And it's in the episode where they're going to marriage therapy. And the husband is Jerry's on the machine, and if you look at the monitor, there's a Bill Cipher on the monitor, and it is clear as day, his hat, the pyramid, everything. So anywho, just fun factoid in there, and that is really what put it over the top. Is I love it when friends like put little Easter eggs in there. And supposedly there's other times, because Bill Cipher in Gravity Falls like lives in other dimensions and is from another dimension. There are people that say that they've caught Bill Cipher in the background somewhere of Rick and Morty, like in other places. So there's people still looking for him. So random thing there, but I like Rick and Morty. I think that's a show that you've mentioned you have not been able to get into, or am I wrong?
You are not wrong. It's on HBO Max, so I did put it on to try and see if I could get into it. Got one episode in, and I was done. It just not for me. Just not for me.
I get you. I had to give myself a policy that if I decided to watch an episode of something, especially because my brother, he'll give me a new recommendation every once in a while. If I'm going to watch it, I have to give it the first full season. I need to allow them one season to pitch these characters to me. So I don't know if you have a similar policy or of an X number of episodes. Personally, I love Rick Potion number 9. It is fucked up. I love the dark humor of it. If you want to watch a standalone, maybe watch that one and see if you can appreciate the dark, fucked up humor of that one and see if it can bait you into other shows. But I definitely feel like it gets better beyond the pilot.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm moody when it comes to stuff I like. So I mean, there have been times to where I will put something on, and then within the first 2 minutes, just like, nope, done, off. And I put it on, and it just didn't grab me because I was on my tablet more than anything else, and at that point, it's just like, next. So is
Yep.
what it is.
Hey, I understand. There's some shows out there that everyone's like, oh, you need to watch insert blank, and I can't. I tried, and it's like I promised myself to give them a shot later, but that day was not going to happen. But so what is your next one?
And that was kind of a great segue because this reminds me of that episode of South Park where everybody wanted him to watch Family Guy because they told him that Family Guy is, just like your cup of tea. When I watch Family Guy, I think of you. So my choice is Family Guy. It's a goofball comedy. It's not deep. It's not subtle. It's like a modern day version of the Airplane movies. The Airplane movies they're throwing jokes at you left and right, but for something I just like having on in the background, it can be funny. Got some great characters. I love Cleveland Brown. Even the spinoff, The Cleveland Show. But after my divorce, I was watching the show a lot, and I would always, I think it was called the episode in season 7, Love Actually, where Cleveland falls in love with a woman that Brian was dating. So Brian tries to get Cleveland's ex-wife to visit him, and Cleveland's ex-wife finally shows up, and then Cleveland turns to the camera and says the funniest line. He goes, I'm no meteorologist, but I'm pretty sure it's raining bitches. Just how he delivered that.
I love Cleveland. That character always cracked me up. I kind of like the spinoff. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
It got kind of some harsh criticism, IMHO, but I liked it, and I saw that one for a while. I didn't stick with me long term. Is it still running?
No. It's not. They actually canceled it, but it was funny. When they canceled it, they brought Cleveland back to Quahog, but they opened the show at the bar. Cleveland goes, I'm back. And then the guys started goofing on him about the show being canceled. And then Peter gives him, he goes, here's the last 4 seasons of our show on DVD. Studies these. These have jokes.
I actually remember that part too, because I didn't commit either way to either show, but I did know enough to know that Cleveland had broken off on his own, and then I recall that joke being made whenever he returns, like, these have jokes, and I'm like, oh, such a good slam on your own. Like, didn't they write that? Like, was it not the same writers?
Yes and no. I mean, any show is going to have like different people coming in. So they did have, folks that did work exclusively on the Cleveland show. But I mean, with Seth MacFarlane involved, with the same production company involved, there's going to be a lot of cross pollination there. I also love the fact on the show that even the characters that are presented as the most normal, like Brian the dog, have their own flaws as well. Like Brian, is a good progressive Democrat, but he's also, in terms of how he's able to communicate his beliefs, but he's also a good poster child of the bad people that are progressives, or just bad politically overall. The say one thing and then do another type of folks.
Yeah.
But just. It's a funny show. I will agree with folks. It's not the greatest cartoon ever made. There are other shows like The Simpsons that did it first and did it better. But for me, Family Guy, when you just want a good, simple, cheap laugh, we'll give that to you. Plus, Surfing Bird. You can't forget Surfing Bird. So, what's your next choice?
So my final choice, and I love this show. I think so.
That should be your fourth. You went first, and that.
Oh, you're right. I skipped one, so I'm actually going to go do that one first because I'll save that one for last. See, I'm glad this is why we have each other to keep on track here.
There we go.
So this one is another one that is a family favorite of ours, and it is called Kippo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. Have you heard of this one?
No.
This one is quite a fantastical show. It's another one that kind of has beasts and things that exist just beyond our world. There's 3 seasons of the show that they released in 2020, which I thought was interesting because it's another Netflix original. And this one I learned is adapted from a webcomic. So I thought that was kind of neat, and that's where I kind of realized, like, I think I've replaced where I used to read webcomics from time to time. It's like now, every now and then, I'll pick up on a really cool cartoon, and it seems now they're just pulling from that inspiration. But so Kippo, basically what's going on is in the beginning, she is in a society of people who live underground because something has happened with the Earth. So it's actually kind of a post-apocalyptic sort of cartoon, but like in a kind of nice way. Like Kippo is a very optimistic, very nice girl, and they end up getting attacked, and they have to go, and she's trying to like find her people and her father and everybody who's like disappeared. Right. And on the surface, you have these creatures that are like sapient mutant animals, and a lot of them can talk, and they're called mutes, and they're the ones that have kind of ruled, and like a lot of them have a lot of interest in like finding these human little underground burrows so that like they can kind of control the humans. Like there's a lot of kind of a human hunt, so to speak. So she's trying to find her people who have been driven out because they found their burrow and like tried to extract them. So she makes some kind of interesting friends along the way. Some of them are mutes, some of them are other survivors that are like, you know, kind of surface dwelling human survivors that don't live underground. So are like kind of tough, whereas Kippo's like very nice and bright eyed and has this own element of mystery to her as well as a character that you kind of start is unfolded by the end of these 3 seasons that are out. So I'm excited to see more of it. I saw a really good quote that I think describes it quite well. It's like the Wizard of Oz, but instead of ruby slippers, Kippo has Converse on.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of that kind of feel, and like I mentioned, kid-friendly. So if you're looking for something that has that adult following, because it's kind of got that depth to it, and it's got some good entertainment value, but you also watch it guilt-free in front of your kids, it's another good one for that. You stealth parents out there that want to enjoy the cartoons.
Yeah, it won't have the, woodland critters or Mr. Hanky like South Park, so.
Yes, it don't have a drunken scientist like Rick and Morty.
All right, I'll go on with my next choice here. Another superhero fare. It is Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan myself, as I mentioned on the show numerous times, and on every single date I've ever been on. And to anybody that will listen, I actually was able to ask Stan Lee a question one time, which is the most awesome thing I've ever done, the coolest thing I've ever done. But this show is inspired by the Ultimate Spider-Man comic book series that was written by Portland resident Brian Michael Bendis. And the whole premise is that Spider-Man has been Spider-Man for about a year now, and then Nick Fury from S.H.I.E.L.D. enlists him to help train 4 other young superheroes in training. That's Luke Cage, Power Man, Danny Rand, Iron Fist, Sam Alexander, Nova, and Ava Ayala as White Tiger. I love this show because it similar to the Avengers and Justice League, it does take its inspiration from stories in the comics. But each episode is kind of they work each season similar to what Buffy the Vampire Slayer did, to where not every episode is necessarily tied into the overall story arc, but there is a story arc, but you can have individual episodes that are just silly, goofy, fun. I like the cutaway gags. Now, some fans that watch this show are not a fan of them, but there will be times to where, you're going to do a quick cutaway and essentially into Peter's head, and he's imagining something silly happening, like, a pie being thrown in somebody's face, just like what will happen after I beat Professor Aubrey at No Chance in Hell this Thanksgiving on the Friends Talking Nerdy Podcasting Network. But it just overall fun show. It's perfect for kids too. The fact that he's kind of they have those interpersonal relationships going on. There's arguing, but with the friends. But I like the fact that it shows that friends argue and then friends get over it, and then friends are able to deepen their friendship because of that. So yeah. Ultimate Spider-Man, you can find it on Disney Plus. Now we're up to your last choice. We've been waiting in anticipation since you sold it so well. What is that last one?
So my last one, I really love the show. I relate a lot to it. It is called F is for Family, and it is another Netflix show. Have you seen F is for Family?
No.
Know anything about it?
No.
Have you heard of a comedian called Bill Burr?
Yes.
Okay, so he is one of the creators, and it's very much his humor. He actually does the voice of Frank Murphy, which is great, because if you've ever heard any of his stand-up comedy, you know he is channeling his father. For Frank Murphy, who's the father, and then Bill is the boy. You know, this is kind of a little bit revolving around, you know, he's got an older brother and a sister named Maureen. There's a lot of really funny jokes where I feel like it's based off truth. Like, Frank Murphy at one point, again, voiced by Bill Burr, is talking to Bill saying, you know, be nice to your sister. You're going to be sleeping on her couch after your second divorce one day. And, like, so he makes a lot of jokes, like, based off of not only his raising, but his life. And I know it's kind of based in the 70s, but because of where I was raised in Texas being about 20 years behind everybody, I relate very hard to, like, that being the cul-de-sac neighborhood.
All right.
And, like, you know, that level of yelling being love. But, so, anywho, absolutely love Bill Burr. It's 2015, and it's still running. But from what I understand, I think this is going to be the last season to come out, whatever the next one is, which is respectable, because if you're up on it at all, it seems like they should be wrapping this up. And that goes back to, like, I love that Netflix has kind of almost encouraged a venue for people to come and create and not, like, make them make a show live on and on just because it's successful. Like, they are letting these creatives actually wrap up a story, it not exhausting people, and then letting them go and create new stuff. So I think it's going to be another one that wraps up nicely too. I've got a good feeling about it. Personal favorite of mine, Tim, I personally think you would like F is for Family out of any of the ones I've talked about today. If you gave that one a shot, I think you'd be. It's not big mouth humor, like, you know, it's. You know, that one was close too, to be honest. But F is for Family, definitely greater than Big Mouth.
Yeah, Big Mouth, it took me a few episodes, and I was literally on the fence and not wanting to watch that again. But, I mean, and that's okay. But maybe I'll give it a shot. But to what you just said about Netflix and how they're encouraging folks to, you know, with how they create their shows, I mean, we really have to, American production companies really have to take what the British have been doing for years. Because when the British they call it a series for a specific reason. Like, one of my favorite British shows is Spaced. That's the sitcom with that Simon Pegg first made a name for himself. Jessica Stevenson is on the show as well. Edgar Wright, director and writer, I believe, of movies like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, was one of the creatives on that show as well. But there are two series for that, because each series tells one specific story. And, you know, it's great when they're able to create more, but they end it on such a way to where, you know, if you know, at the end of series 2, that was it, then, you know, it's done. That's the end. You can walk away happy. Whereas, you know, American shows just try their best to keep going and going and going until nobody's really watching. And then a lot of times they just cut it off with no real resolution.
Yeah, and then you just have, like, an ending that just happens because they had to make some kind of ending happen, and it's kind of shit and totally lost the point of whatever the show was supposed to be about.
Like Alf.
Or like
Alf.
Happy Days or anything like that. Like,
yeah.
But then you've got, like, the 70s show, which you knew it was going to last 10 seasons. You knew it was going to end, and it was beautiful how they, like, I love a show that just ends well. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that that's a trend more than, like, an exception nowadays. Like, it was getting to be a show ending well was an exception. Like, Gravity Falls, for that time period, still kind of weird for them to go, no, it's not that we're canceled, we're done. The series was supposed to be about these kids' summer vacation. So we can only do so many years of them being on the same summer vacation, guys. Like, and then it ends with them, like, you know, defeating this this thing that was going on. So it's respectable, and so I'm glad to see it happening more and more.
Yeah, it's not like MASH that can be on for 12 seasons, 10 years longer than the actual war they're talking about. But anyway, we'll go into my last choice here. This was an oddball choice, but when I first saw the commercials for it when it first came out, I knew I was going to love it, and I do. It's Mike Tyson Mysteries. Have you ever seen that?
I have not seen Mike Tyson Mysteries. It sounds like something I'm really missing out on, though, and I'm excited to learn about it now.
It is on Hulu. It's the whole premise is that the animation style, the storytelling is told similar to Hanna-Barbera cartoons from the 70s and 80s. Mike Tyson, his adopted Asian daughter, a pigeon named Pigeon, who's voiced by Norm Macdonald, and Marquise of Queensberry, who's an actual living figure who created the rules for modern day boxing, is a ghost in the story. And then they go off and just solve mysteries. Like the first one, they had to go to Cormac McCarthy's house to stop the chupacabra for whatever reason, and it's fun because Mike Tyson cannot say the word chupacabra. He just completely messes it up throughout, and even Norm
So it was
Macdonald,
just the bit of the show is like him not being able to say chupacabra the entire time. I love it.
there's that, and like Norm Macdonald was goofing on him. I don't think you could just say that word, things like that. Like they will go on a mystery on some episodes, and then like nothing really happens in terms of advancing that mystery. They just do some crazy stuff. Like my favorite thing is like there was this one episode, I forgot the specific one, but like Mike Tyson is smiling, and they go, "Why are you smiling? We're in danger." He's like, "This is not a happy smile. This is I'm gonna kick everyone's ass type of smile." It reminded me because back in the day, Mr. T had a cartoon, and that was one of the inspirations for this. And it's done in that same type of 80s Saturday morning cartoon type of vibe. I can't say enough about it. Just it's so off the wall and bizarre that yes, it is admittedly tough to really describe it, just because it's Mike Tyson Mysteries. No, it's just odd, but it's funny as hell. Give it a watch. It was canceled this year, but like I mentioned, it is on Hulu.
I might have to check that one out, especially since it is on Hulu. So.
All right. With that, let's go to our album of the week. Let us know what we are going to be discussing this week.
Yeah, so the album I talked Tim into doing this week is Nerdcore Rising by MC Frontalot. I wanted to give another shot to Nerdcore out there. Just to somebody who was a little bit more seasoned. I feel like he had a lot more variety, and kind of I knew something that kind of got brought up with the last Nerdcore was a lot of the mixes sounded a little generic mixy. He's a little bit more into the game. Especially this album that we've picked, which includes remastering a lot of classics that he had that was just an original internet release that I found out about. See, I thought there was an album before this one, and it turns out that was just an internet thing, and this one that we were doing was variations of some of those classics and revisions with a few new ones added along. So I'm excited. I like him. I think he's kind of nerdy and funny, and I am a sucker for basically he is... If a dad joke could be a rapper, it would be MC Frontalot. Like he just talks like a walking dad joke, and I realize that will only appeal to certain people, but that is something I specifically like about him. And I think it just makes every song funny when you just picture your dad rapping it. So what was your initial thoughts on Nerdcore Rising? And it was a longer one too, so.
Yeah. Well, I'll start off with a disclaimer. The opinions that we are about to give are just that, our opinions. We are not musicians, so unless we specifically say so, the opinions we give are just what tickles our fancy as music listeners. Having said that, I was not a fan. As far as the music itself, to your point, yeah, it was a lot more professional sounding, and there were a lot of nods to 80s and early 90s hip hop, which I really liked, and I'll point out when we go through them for the individual tracks. But the delivery style was what really got me, and from the very start, and it went downhill from there fast. Now, one more addendum to the disclaimer. Even though I'm going to give my opinions that will not make fans of his happy per se, they are my opinions, and I still encourage you to go out and buy this album, especially with the world the way it is today. You got to support artists, and just because I don't like it doesn't make it bad. So that'll be the last time you'll hear that type of talk from me. So we're not apologizing every 5 minutes for.
Yes, and to any other fellow fans of MC Frontalot, I know where he sleeps. So.
Yeah, there's a reason we have it on video here, just keep the sharp objects away.
I'm not allowed over at Tim's place because I threaten to cut him in his sleep a lot when he doesn't like the same things that I like, because that's how our friendship works.
Exactly. So, as we always do, we will go through this track by track. So, track 1, Charity Case. What'd you think?
So, this one, I just have that. I like the beat. It always makes me wish I knew the words to this song to sing along, but I never end up liking the song enough to repeat listen to it. Like, I feel like every time I hear Charity Case, it's the first time I hear it until I go like, oh yeah, this one that I always want to sing the words to and don't know. Which this is where I actually made the first note of MC Frontalot is kind of like the walking dad joke of rappers, of rappers. Because it's funny, I almost said rapist theirs, which is a throwback to the other artist that we did with people called him the rapist. But anyway,
okay.
Rappers. I meant to say rappers, not rapist. But so anywho, this is just a standard song. It's not something that I listen to on repeat. It's not a solid favorite. I do like the beat. He knows kind of what he's doing. It's a decent one for a show starter too. And I did kind of like, as a show starter concept of being like, hey guys, please buy my stuff. Like, please don't go download it from like YouTube to MP3. Like, I'm not like, just because you hear me on Pandora or whatever doesn't mean that I'm like rolling a dough. Like, can you support me? Because this is what I do. And but he addresses it in a funny way without being like accusing to it. So I kind of dug that he had like the dad level of delivery, like awkward dad, just trying to tell you like maybe at night, like if you're gonna have your computer, your laptop on, like maybe just leave the door open just a little bit, Like I felt like it was that level of what buy my stuff. But what did you think?
All right, the notes I had. I loved the opening riff. His vocals, I'm not a fan. To your point, I did right. It's like having your parent rap. I have no issues with rapping about nerdy things. It's just his delivery did not do it for me. Too lyrically heavy. Hip hop usually is, so delivery is key for the listener not to notice that. And the chorus, the "It's true, it's true," is just too whiny and annoying for my taste. I didn't care for it.
Exactly, and I think it's that "it's true" part that ultimately puts me off of listening to it. It's like I always like everything but the chorus of a song, which is so backwards from what you normally get when you like a song. Like, right. Usually it's like, oh, well, that's all shit, but the chorus of this anthem song is like my jam,
Okay. Track number 2, Goth Girls. I will go with the notes I have here. The music for the song was fine. I could easily picture it in an 80s or 90s hip-hop album, which speaks to how well sonically it sounds. Just the lyrics, the delivery did it for me again. I just didn't care for it. The cello solo, I dug that. That was pretty inventive. It's like, you're either going to love this song or you're going to be in my camp. Again, just the vocal delivery. Just once he started doing his thing, I tuned out. What did you think?
So, of course, me loving his lyrical style, I actually put that the awkwardness of his voice works really well with the topic. I really liked how well he worked in awkward stammering into the lyrics, and it gave it kind of an adorkable spin to it, is what I thought. Like the mean here, doc, good, no. And he does that a few times where he's like, he flibberted her jibs in front of this girl, and just like, I think the topic also is kind of adorable, like the idea of the nerdy guys always being into the goth girls, like, or that stereotype anyway. This is probably one of my top MC Frontalot songs. When I think of MC Frontalot, and it's like one of those songs, it's like, yeah, this one's like kind of goofy. And I do like his rapping style in this one better. I did like the beat. I like some of the accentuating sounds that they brought in and elements like that. Something that reminded me of a guitar, but it wasn't a guitar. It was definitely an effect. But I did really dig just the impact of that actual cello in there, because given that that was probably the only actual instrument, it really made it stand out. But it worked in a way. Like, it wasn't like, what the hell is this cello doing there? Like, it was pleasant addition to the music he had going already.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's to me, just again, based on my opinion, it's like watching a baseball team lose a game, but then you have like one play to where they have like something that would end up on Sports Center like that. That part was just like, whoa, that was really good. So
yeah.
All right, the next song, I think it's the Prawn Song or Porn Song or whatever. Sure, you will tell us the proper title because of the unique spelling, but what did you think?
I don't even really know, honestly. It is a song about internet porn. I'll shoot straight with you. You're right. Sorry, prude people. This one's not going to be for you. Personally, I really love this song. Like, I like the intro. And I like the little variety of computerized beeps and boops to kind of bring you into like that kind of like, we're going into the deep internet. And the song that basically covers rule number 34, and that the rule of the internet is that if it exists or it can be imagined, there is internet porn of it. So I do think it's funny. I think that level of humor edges on that kind of dark comedy that I really dig. I did kind of I like his rap voice, so for him, I thought I liked the sound of him rapping out, and I thought it was just really funny, like kind of the insane things he was saying. And there's only one other song I've ever heard that I feel even covers the whole Rule 34 of the internet, and that was Internet Porn by Da Vinci's Notebook, which is another favorite song of mine. So I might share that one for funsies. Well, really, I mean, I can't think of any other songs that have straight made fun of what variety of porn we have on the internet. Very few. This one and Da Vinci's Notebook are the only two that I feel like talk about. There is this fact out there. There's a lot of it. And, like, pretty much the whole point is you can kind of find it. So, I mean, what were your kind of thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot out there. We even interviewed a porn director, producer, and actress on the show before, so that was cool. But my thoughts on the song...
No, it wasn't me, folks. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I've not been in any porno to my knowledge.
Okay. Good thing we have video this week. All right. The notes I had. The music itself was fine. It didn't do much for me overall sonically. If it was just an instrumental, and if it was on the background, I wouldn't dislike it. But I did write, certified nerds should refrain from rapping. As far as... Go ahead.
No, I was just laughing at the certified nerd should refrain from rapping.
Yeah. As far as the subject matter, it's just like, why? I mean, anybody who's listening to me or knows me knows I'm the furthest thing from a prude, but it's just, I just didn't think internet porn needed a song, and if you're going to do it, at least be a little inventive about it, and I just wasn't a fan. It did not tickle my fancy, so anyway, yeah. All right, let's go on.
I don't take it personally, but yeah. So, yellow lasers. Did you have anything better to say about yellow lasers?
Yellow Lasers. I wrote a light jazz feel, a hookup song about people who met at a comic convention, delivered by someone who sounds like they wouldn't know what happens at a comic convention. He uses a lot of buzzwords in terms buzzwords. I mean, it's kind of like that show, The Big Bang Theory, to where they have to show how much of a nerd they are by talking about the most obscure nerd reference, and it just doesn't sound genuine. When I listen to this song, I think of that GIF that you have of Steve Buscemi, where he's in a high school. Hello, fellow children. What are we talking about today? And that's the vibe I get from this. It's like name dropping all the pop culture references like he does is similar to Kid Rock name dropping bands he listens to in his songs. It just sounds disingenuous and fake. So, what did you think?
This is not a song that is super a favorite of mine. I feel like at least one per album. There's one song per album that's just there. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was this song. This song, it exists. It's not like the worst thing in the world. It manages to sound new to me because it's just I have an amnesia and I never remember that I've heard it before. And then there'll be a part like, oh, that's right. This is the one where he's just saying a bunch of Star Wars references while the little drummer boy is like tap, tap, tapping behind him. Like, because that's what it kind of felt like. I did put a note that I did like the drum work. I mean, it was just good drum work, though. Like, it wasn't like a whole new experience for my ears of drum work. It was just good drum work and MC Frontalot saying every now and then I could catch a random Star Wars reference, which, for me to understand Star Wars references says a lot because I'm not that glued to the show. But yeah, so that's basically the feeling on that song. It's a song that's there. Sorry if it's anybody's favorite, or if you met somebody at the Comic-Con and that's like your song that you got married to or something.
We got married. We're certified nerds, and we listened to this song all the time. It was our song. Okay. Anyway, let's go into track 5. What is the name of track 5? I have the notes for track 5, but I don't have the song name.
Don't worry. It's This Old Man.
Okay. What did you think?
So I like the intro on this one. There's something about the beat and like the tapping clicking effect they've got going on that I feel like usually gets me moving to this one. And it's that strutting, that kind of side to side, kind of like I could walk and listen to this song and be happy. I did like every now and then it had that banjo plucking in there, and then that interesting tonal difference of the "this old man." Like they kind of take you back, like with that kind of old timey radio voice. Mm-hmm. And it did interrupt it, and it did sound out of place. But there was something that I liked about it breaking up the song occasionally. I don't know, it felt a little experimental almost. Like it didn't belong, but it worked in a way for me that I enjoyed. But what was your overall take of This Old Man?
Well, I love the Addams Family type of organ that was used in the song, kind of the haunted housey type of organ that was used really well. The words in the lyrics just... they're not delivered naturally. Once again, it seems he wants to use words with lots of syllables in them, which is fine. There are rappers that can easily pull that off and sound natural. It's just it just sticks out how he delivers. It seems like he wants to emphasize every single word, and when you try and emphasize every single word, it loses the meaning overall. I really enjoyed the 40s old time radio singing "This Old Man." I really dug that. Probably my favorite part. And I never thought I would hear a banjo in a hip hop song, but here we are. 2020 is strange.
Yes. I mean, this was all done before 2015, but
Yeah, it's still. I never thought I would hear it. So there you go. I'll claim it for 2020. So we'll go on to the next track here, the title track, Nerdcore Rising. I'll go with my notes here. Actually dug the synth that they used in the song. The parts where he actually sang was pretty good. I dug that. His singing voice was actually... I dug that better than his hip-hop delivery. There was another rapper on the song. I didn't catch that rapper's name, but he was a lot more natural in terms of how he delivered the lyrics. And the Stephen Hawking type of cameo... the fuck, come on. The dialect cameo, the exterminate, I can live with that, but it to me it just lacks an element that could snag in a casual listener. It has some good elements, but it wasn't for me. What did you think?
So, yep, Nerdcore Rising. Here it is. This is the song that accidentally named a genre, folks. And so the people featured in this was Jesse Dangerously, and that was MC Hawking. So that is, in fact, another Nerdcore rapper. He has been around for a long, long time. From what I understand, Stephen Hawking embraced this rapper that rapped as MC Hawking. Just side note, I never dug into it. I know there hasn't been a lot of controversy. He's been around, like he was around before Stephen Hawking died. Like I don't know if he's still doing anything, but yes, that is actually that wasn't just a vocal he did for this show or for this song. This is an actual guest featured another MC that does that vocal all the time. But just so as a side note there. But it's a pretty simple beat, but the intent would be to kind of focus on the lyrics as nerdcore is being defined across MC Front a lot and the two guest rappers, so this one definitely was going to fall under. I could hear you say that it was going to be lyrically heavy.
Yeah.
But it would be because this was it defined a genre. But I like MC Hawking when he pops in on stuff. Something that I do love about the nerdcore type community is they pop in on each other's stuff a lot. So I've heard him a lot, like on standalone stuff, and then just popping in like this. And there's just something that I love about the idea of hearing Stephen Hawking rap, and I've always liked that even since before he died. And he had generally speaking, he had a pretty good sense of humor about stuff. So I'm pretty sure it was true that he was kind of down with it. I never looked it up to confirm it. It was just one of those he was kind of cool sense of humor about it. I was like, sure, I could see that because he seemed like that dude. But
yeah.
So yeah, it's not my favorite song, but it is the one that kind of started the genre that I personally enjoy. And there you go. And you learned about two other nerdcore rappers on there too.
Yay. No. All right. We'll go to the next track then. Which MC was that? What were your thoughts?
So I like this one because it's kind of making fun of a few things of it. But I want to say, and I tried to find this, but the very first person, that high-pitched voice, I'm pretty sure that's another lesser-known MC Chris that some may know if you ever watch Zack and Miri Makes a Porno. The song Boba Fett's Vet that they play, that's MC Chris. And I thought about giving you that album, but when I was listening to it, I'm like, I'm gonna stick with MC Front a lot. There's some artists out there that I love one song. But anywho, I'm pretty sure that's him. If anybody out there in our nerddom knows otherwise, know for a fact that's not, feel free to let me know. It sounds a lot like him. So it would have been his earlier years. But this one always kind of makes me move. I like that it's kind of poking fun at fan confusion, but it's also kind of poking fun at some of the names of MCs that are out there, some of the stage names that people actually choose. So I dug that. I really didn't have too much to say about it other than that. He's good at putting down a beat. So for me to say the beat is good is going to be the same on almost every song.
Gotcha. The notes I had, I did appreciate the drum opening. That really stuck out. The synth sax was a nice throwback to 80s hip hop, which I really dug. The keyboard work was fun. Again, the vocals. If I had to compare Frontalot's vocal delivery to another hip hop artist, it would be Will Smith. They're kind of similar in a lot of ways, and
I can get behind that, super nerdy, white AF Will Smith. Got it.
Pretty much, yeah. It's just that with Will Smith, though, even though Will Smith tends to be lyrically heavy as well, his delivery has always been a lot more natural. It's just, again, the Frontalot just wants to emphasize every single word, and it just makes me so upset, and I just don't like it. So, if anything, it's in hip hop, artist tried to create a persona, but based on how he's delivering the lyrics, I just don't believe that he's the nerd that he's trying to project that he is. So, is what it is. So, Trek 8, Penny Arcade Theater. I'll go with my notes here. Another nice 80s throwback. Brings me back to the good old days when mainstream hip-hop had a little more sonic variety. Even though you would have the harder stuff, you would also have groups like the Fresh DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Young MC, MC Light, and other similars. This is the part where when he name dropped Will Wheaton, it was like, this is just like if the Big Bang Theory cast put out an album, this would be that album. And if there's a show I absolutely loathe, it's the Big Bang Theory. That is, I mean, there are some sick, like Full House. You put on an episode of Full House, there may be a joke or two that I may have a chuckle for. I've never, not once, when being forced to watch that horrible show, I've never ever had even the slightest bit of a chuckle. It just seems fake. It just seems like they're trolling the internet to find as many nerd references as they can, and the people delivering the lines don't actually believe it. It just didn't really do it for me. What did you think?
So I put not a fan of this one. I feel like it's the song version of an inside joke that I don't get. It's not a bad beat, because like I just said, that's one thing he's good at that, but he just sounds like he's just being himself, doing his thing. And I had put the note that I know Penny Arcade used to be a webcomic back in the day, and I think that there's now like something called the Penny Arcade, like it's its own Comic-Con like convention. And I think this may be a song that was written for that. I tried to kind of lightly search it, but I didn't have time to completely confirm that. But putting together some of the images that I saw as I was putting my notes together on the album overall, didn't make it to look into that segue. But I think it might be related, and that would make sense why he was name dropping a little if he was talking about a convention. So I think this may have something to do with PAX.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, and other than that, so that would also explain why it kind of feels like an inside joke that I don't get. Like, if it's a song about a convention I have no awareness of, like, maybe that's why. Like, the song's not really for me. It's like for the people that know about this convention that, I had never really heard of. But I used to read Penny Arcade, the webcomics, so that kind of gave me a clue in.
Yeah. Kind of like Scientologists singing songs about Scientology or something. I don't know. Let's move on to the next one here. Floating Bridge. What were your thoughts?
I put very bright, upbeat intro. It almost feels like I was getting ready to play a video game level. And pretty sure that's what they were going for. It seems like they're implying like they get into talking about the floating bridges, and it sounds like they're talking about like the stuff you'd see in Mario. I like the playfulness and especially the brevity. It's one of the shorter songs, so it never got to that point of being repetitive. It was a very quick song. It's enough to just kind of get you into the beat of it, and then it's done. Like, it was perfect to me. It was like the perfect length of a song. What did you think?
Well, I didn't have much to say, but what I wrote here kind of sums it up. It sounds like a song a youth pastor at a small church in West Newbury, Massachusetts would make for his young congregation. It just sounded fake. It just like one of those things that you'll give polite applause to if it's somebody making it, but you're walking out in the parking lot like, God, that was garbage. But it was just like, I was glad it was short. I was glad it was over, and just unlike some of the other songs. I mean, I made sure to point out in some of the other songs that, even though I'm not a fan of the lyric delivery, a lot of the music itself it has been great because of the great throwbacks. But this was just short. It was just, it didn't seem like there was much effort really put into it. It's just like somebody took like a prearranged beat from like GarageBand if they have a Mac or a Casio keyboard, and then I have a song, yay! So anyway.
Yeah, it almost seems like it was written for a bit about a video game level. Like, not necessarily like a standalone entertainment song. I get you, because that's where I was like, it felt like I was going into a video game level.
And that's the thing too with a video game reference in 2005. A modern day video gamer 15 years later may not necessarily get it just simply because of how advanced gaming has become. Now, some fans may argue that, with the mobile gaming being what it is and a lot of retro games being released on mobile, that people could probably get it this way, whatever. But just, why? Why? Let's move on to the next one. That's why. Hassel, the Dorkening. My notes, you can't go wrong with a shaft drum fill to open up the song.
Yes.
I did write that the 7 people that played Dungeons and Dragons may enjoy the jokes in the song, but overall, because of that, it has a limited appeal. The high-pitched singing I actually enjoyed. It was silly and over the top, but it fit with the mood of the music. And, as we discussed last week, the 70s had a lot of singers that go falsetto. For this, it really worked. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it's like they took their trip to the disco on this album too. We kind of gotten into some of the experimentalness in our last album review where they did a little bit of everything, including a trip to the disco. So I guess this was MC Frontalot's version of the trip to the disco. I did like the percussion intro. I liked the funkiness in the beat. They didn't just use it as a gimmicky intro. Like they kind of kept that theme throughout it. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that they're talking about a specific game, but I thought that they were picking on card games like Magic the Gathering with Hassel the Dorkening, but unsure if it was either that or, Dungeons and Dragons or things like that. But I think it really was. Yeah, it was more just like, I think it's that gathering around culture, those games that you huddle around type thing. So. Yep. But yeah, I liked this one. It was kind of a fun one, and I dug hearing kind of those disco beats being woven in throughout the entirety of the song.
Nice. All right. We'll move on to track 11, Crime Spree. What were your thoughts?
I love the percussion paired with the horns for the intro there. It was fun. It was a nerd coming clean about all of the jaywalking level crimes they've been quote-unquote getting away with. I dig the percussion throughout as he dad raps his way through his boring crime spree. And so it's another one of those, like, I think it's more the enjoyability of it is the topic and his dad style level of delivery of it. Like, it's a joke. It's not really enjoyed as a song so much. It's more enjoyed as a joke to me. Right. But that was my enjoyment with it. What was your thoughts on Crime Spree?
The notes I had, the chorus was actually delivered well. It's fun. It flows a lot better compared to the rest of the tracks we've heard so far. This is a point where I realized that the album is missing what you tend to associate with hip-hop music, and that's skits. A lot of times hip-hop artists tend to have skits that kind of play before a particular song to set it up, and you didn't get it here. Even Schaefer the Dark Lord had skits with the therapist thing, which kind of set up particular songs, and it made me think, especially for this song, if I had a skit beforehand that kind of laid the groundwork for this, maybe I could have enjoyed it a lot better. It's just like, to your point, what you mentioned from a couple songs back, I mean, this sounds like there's something there that I could possibly enjoy, but it's like I don't know the full story, and if I don't know the full story, I'm not going to get the joke.
Right.
So, all right, let's go on to track 12 here. Special Delivery. The notes I had, it has some signs of inspiration from Dr. Dre. The sound is similar to what Dr. Dre or Eminem would do. Dre produces a lot of Eminem's work. The keyboards could have done without them. It wasn't to my liking. I didn't care for them. Vocal delivery is what it is. It didn't stand out as being too bad this time, but it also didn't wow me. You're either going to really love this song or you're going to hate it. This is not one that you can necessarily have on in the background while you're doing chores around the house or something like that. Again, if you're a fan of his, you're going to probably love it. But what did you think?
So this one I liked the beat, and I also kind of liked his delivery because I feel like it sounds different than is normal, at least a little bit. It's a little bit more into that raginess because it is a little bit of a politically heated song.
Mm-hmm.
It's been stuck in my head a lot lately because a little bit politically ranty, it goes right into it. I tried to go clean from protesting, but I'm a recidivist. My government behaving with unlimited wickedness. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, I mean, those are the first two lines of the song. So it tells you right ahead that it's just gonna be an upbeat crowd pleaser. So if anything, it's worth at least reading the political rant side of it, even if you don't get into the full lyrics of it. Personally, I liked it. It's not a funny song; it's more of his political stuff. And there's other songs that he's done that have really amazing like political and social messages. Like there's First World Problems, which is just a good one to listen to as a standalone MC Frontalot song. But this is definitely one of those where he wanted to kind of touch on a more serious topic. It's not jokey, haha, funny at all. It's anthem-y, kind of ragey.
Yeah, and especially in the times that we live in, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So let's go on to the next one here, track 14, I Heart Fags. The notes I had, 70s R&B vibes, which is good. I have the same issue with the vocals. As far as the lyrics, I get what he was trying to do, but with this topic, even when someone is attempting to use humor to make a positive point, it needs to be delivered correctly, and I just didn't think, I don't think it was delivered as well as it could have been. What did you think?
Kind of the same. My first note is I'm not even going to try to quote any part of this song.
You leave that to me.
Yeah, I leave that to you. But I mean, it is a funny song. The point seems to be to jar you at first. Like he's doing it the way he's doing it to be jarring. But then you realize by the end of it that he is actually kind of making fun of like that homophobic type person. Like he's being not the Frontalot character. He's being a totally different character when he's saying these things. Right. So it even goes from the name of the song being jarring, the initial delivery being jarring. He's being that person that has no idea how offensive they're being. And thinks it's okay because, like, they love me, so it's okay. Like, I can talk about them this way. It's okay because they love me. And then you realize by the end that he's making fun of that. Sounds like
some of my relatives.
I did want to say, I think we skipped one because number 13 I had is message number 419.
Oh, okay.
And that's okay. So we'll bump back. So message number 419. You go ahead and go first on this one since you wanted to skip it so badly.
Oh my god. Okay. I swear we prepared.
You just wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
You just wanted to say the name of the song that you
over and over.
You just wanted the soundbite.
Yeah, and it's funny too. It's like the moment Professor Aubrey gets home from dance class, the moment she opens that door, I'm saying the title of that song out loud, and she's walking in like, "What the fuck?" Anyway,
just tell her it's a Tracy album; she'll understand.
All right, message number 419. I loved the opening vocals. I loved the line, "Just a scene in an intrigue film." Don't know the artist who delivered that, but I loved her unique vocal delivery. It came across well. And he appeared to be having a little trouble maintaining his delivery rhythm in terms of making it kind of fit within the beats of the song. There were a couple of times where I felt like he was rushing a little bit to kind of fit with the beat. The fake Louis Armstrong "God Message number 419" vocals were fun. There's a joke in the song, I get it, but the delivery just kills it for me again. The bass kept the groove, but I didn't care for the synth work. What were your thoughts?
So yeah, I had, a bit of a funky jam, but nothing really stands out about it other than the background high-pitched effects that I'm not a huge fan of. But I did kind of appreciate, like you said, that God Message number 419. Like, it just adds kind of an element of fun to it. I also like that as you get into it, and I think what you may be experiencing is him changing pace. because at the beginning of the song, it's like he's about to be the victim of one of these email scams, and that's what's like just like something from an intrigue film. Was that, I'm being told that this person has all these money and these bonds, and the only thing they need is my bank account and my whatever, right? Needs my ID. So at first he's starting off as you think he's a victim, but then he's like, well, of course I don't have any money in my bank account. Why do you think I wanted to do this? And well, I mean, but the ID wasn't mine, but it was real, the ID I gave you. So it's like they kind of ruined the scam by not really being scammed properly. And then it even goes into the end where it sounds like he's being emailed by another person. The different email scam. So I thought it was kind of funny, and I thought some of how his delivery changed was unveiling that he wasn't necessarily an innocent person either, that he tried to steal somebody else's ID to help do whatever this email scam was. Like,
right.
He almost made another victim of somebody trying to make him a victim, and I thought that was it was funny.
Okay. All right, then we will go to track 15 now, Braggadocio. What were your thoughts?
This is the song that I forget exists until I hear it, and I immediately want to skip it. There's something about the effects and the sounds that they implement that just annoy me. Like, I like his voice, but it's not enough to distract from, like, some loudness of the background that they use, and, like, some of the wah-wah effect, like, awkwardly auto-tuned and of a higher-pitched voice, like, peppered in there. I felt like this was using all of the elements on the soundboard with, like, no rhyme or reason. Like, maybe he just let his kid mix a thing. So definitely not my favorite. I'm sure it has something to do with playing on the braggadocio thing, and maybe there's supposed to be a deeper meaning to it, but as far as deeper meaning translating to enjoyed hearing, that did not happen for me. But what did you think of braggadocio?
The notes I had, the music, for the most part, has a good 80s R&B type of vibe. It's more stunted delivery of the lyrics, which didn't care for. The drum loops sounded odd on the mix. They were a little overpowering, and there was too much fuzz on the cymbals. Anytime the cymbals went off, it was just kind of like just like snow that you would have on old-fashioned TVs. And I ended with, do we really need a shout-out to Zapp and Roger? That's the auto-tuned voiced type, because there was a band called Zapp and Roger in the 80s. They were an R&B band that were famous for using auto-tune for everything, and wasn't for me. I didn't care for it. Let's go with that rousing support there. Let's go to the last track here. Indier Than Thou. The notes I had, slightly better sounding than a Casio keyboard. For the 16th time, I didn't care for the vocal delivery. The bass was pretty solid. The drum loops kept the groove going pretty strong. Synth work wasn't to my taste, but the effects at the end, it makes it seem like that made it seem like the drum loop was an old recording. I really enjoyed that. What did you think?
I feel like I always get Indier Than Thou, like, confused with which MC is that. It's got a very similar feel to me, I think. But I like Indier Than Thou. It's a nice little goofy song to send you off with, but it's not too raucous, it's not too loud, it's not too upbeat, but it's not like that mellow drift out final song either for a final track. Right. So, good little goofy thing. I like the little percussion and the overall beat will always get me moving. And I always think it's weird that it's broken up with the weird cartoony level monologue. Like, I feel like there's some movie that they're watching and I don't know what it is. And I don't know if it actually adds anything to the song for me. Like, I honestly think that could be taken out and, like, the song would just still be the same. Right. But I don't think it makes it make any more or less sense. But anyway, appropriately silly and nerdy to send you off. So, overall, I liked it for kind of an ending song. Again, I kind of wish I understood the cartoon monologue that was peppered in there, but I don't think taking it out would fix it or make it any better at the same time.
Yeah, and maybe some fan hearing this can fill us in, or if MC Frontalot himself were to, if he got this far in the review after hearing me say all kinds of lovely things about his vocal delivery.
I love your voice, MC Frontalot.
Not me, not so much, but that's just my opinion. Maybe somebody could fill us in, but yeah, that was Nerdcore Rising.
Nerdcore Rising, woo! And this will be the last time Tim lets me pick an album.
No. I mean, we did kind of briefly talk, and I think might as well have a little talk about how we're going to go about this in the future. Yes. An idea I had, and I thought that would be fun and kind of encourage audience engagement, is that going forward, we'd want to put up a poll to where Tracy would have a choice, and I would have a choice, and then let the audience kind of pick. So one of us could potentially have bragging rights, and if that's me, I totally would be 100% humble the whole time, no name calling, nothing like that.
Yep. That's not Tim. That's not how he rolls at all. He is a kind-hearted soul and individual who is niceness constantly, and that's truth. Don't fact check that one. Take that to the bank. Fake news. Wrong use of fake news.
No, all I was going to say, somewhere I can hear my ex-wife laughing. But anyway.
Has to have a soul to laugh.
True. Anyway, so we will put that up on Twitter. That seems to be the area where we get the most traction in terms of the votes. But we definitely encourage you all to help shape what you hear on the show. If you like us talking about particular artists and you see them up on the poll, definitely vote on that poll. Share it with people. If, like, I know my sister, like last time I put up a poll with 4 choices, there was one that she really wanted, Marvin Gaye album, What's Going On. No, Let's Get It On. And she was she actually spread stuff on Twitter about that, like vote for this. So it'll be cool going forward. And if this whole recording turned out well, you are seeing the video now on YouTube as well as hearing us audio wise. So I think it's time to wrap it up.
I think so too.
All right. Thank you, folks, for listening to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. We will see you all next week. And remember,
it's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling. You're growing inside. And when you wake up ready to say, I think I'll make a snappy new day. It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling, the feeling that I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. I will too. You always make each day such a special day. You know how? By just your being you. Only one person in the whole world like you. That's you yourself. I'll be back next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.